Tonight, history unfolding on Capitol Hill.
We march those articles of impeachment to the United States Senate.
Managers have been named, and the impeachment of President Donald Trump moves forward. The latest from the halls of Congress. Plus, Democratic presidential hopefuls try to focus on policy rather than on each other.
Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie.
The highlights from the final Democratic debate ahead of the Iowa caucus. And a step forward in trade with China as the president signs phase 1 of a new deal. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Articles of impeachment move from the House to the Senate. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. A full 4 weeks after lawmakers in the lower chamber decided to impeach President Trump, the United States House voted today to transmit those articles of impeachment to the Senate.
And today, those articles got the full ceremonial treatment. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi officially signing them in what's known as an engrossment ceremony. From there, they were walked over from the House side of Congress to the Senate and finally delivered to the Secretary of the Senate.
And now the ball is in the Senate's court with details tonight of how the impeachment trial is set to take shape.
Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has been following this development all day and joins us now from the Hill with the latest. Abigail?
That's right, Jenna. The stage is set for the third impeachment trial of an American president charged with abuse of power and obstruction of Congress.
They have a hoax going on over there. Let's take care of it.
Allowing House Republicans to go vote no on sending articles to the Senate.
Kevin McCarthy, as you know, left for the hoax.
The president dismissed impeachment at an event at the White House. The House-passed resolution will take the case to the Senate.
It's always about marking history using time.
Flanked by her 7 impeachment managers, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said time is on her side.
Time has been our friend in all of this because it has yielded incriminating evidence, more truth into the public domain.
For his part, the president wasted no time, taking to Twitter during the Speaker's announcement to call the trial another con job, adding that all of this work was supposed to be done by the House, not the Senate.
Time has given us the ability to show the American people the necessity of a fair trial.
Newly appointed impeachment manager Adam Schiff said a fair trial demands the consideration of more evidence. Specifically, newly released documents from an associate of Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal attorney.
If we feel that we do not have enough information, I'm fine with it.
Indiana Republican Senator Mike Braun told CBN News that calling witnesses goes both ways, citing Joe Biden as a potential witness due to his son Hunter's role with Ukrainian gas company Burisma.
How that can't be relevant to the discussion when there was corruption in Ukraine, and are you immune from any kind of a scrutiny because you're a potential political rival?
After months of closed-door meetings and public hearings, Republican senators see the trial on their side of the Hill as an opportunity to hear the rest of the story.
There is a significant desire on our side for the president to be heard.
Now, during the mandatory Senate trial, there will be strict rules in place on the Senate floor, including no cell phones or electronics or senators talking amongst themselves. Plus, many senators tell me that they've been told to prepare for 6-hour sessions. Back to you, John and Jenna.
All right, Abigail Robertson reporting on Capitol Hill. With that, we want to bring in our Faith Nation political panel. Daniel Littman of Politico, covering the White House in Washington, and CBN chief political analyst David Brody. The big question now is, will the Senate call witnesses? President Trump tweeting earlier today that was the House's responsibility. Daniel, what are your thoughts? Are we going to see witnesses in the Senate?
I think we'll definitely see a bunch of witnesses, but they won't be all pro-Democratic witnesses because the Senate is controlled by Republicans. And so a lot of people are making the point that if we're going to hear from John Bolton or some of Bolton's deputies or other White House aides, then why shouldn't we hear from some of those Republican desired witnesses like Hunter Biden? And this is kind of a nightmare for Democrats, but they knew what they were getting into when they asked for witnesses. It doesn't just be one way for yourself.
That's the so-called reciprocity rule?
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's just fairness. I don't think the American people want to see a trial where only one side can call witnesses. That just doesn't reek of proper standards in America.
Oh, and today House Speaker Pelosi, she announced the 7 impeachment managers. David, why these 7?
A lot of them have litigation experience. I mean, obviously, Gerald Nadler, House Judiciary Committee Chairman, that's obvious. Adam Schiff, that's also obvious. Hakeem Jeffries, you know, has been a litigator in his past as well. So they all kind of have that common theme. There are a few other factors here. One's from a swing Trump district. We can get into all of that. But that's part of it as well. There's a lot of political calculation here.
Daniel, any surprises there for you?
I don't think so. I think the secrecy that they are holding all of these proceedings is kind of shocking, given that they've restricted some of the media to witness the transmittal of the articles from the House to the Senate. And so they're keeping everything under wraps, which, you know, this is American history we're all watching. And so kind of as an advocate for the media, we should let Capitol Hill, kind of the press corps, they know what to do, and it doesn't seem like the Senate Republicans are that interested in transparency.
Daniel, David, speaking of Senate Republicans, we got 2 Ds. How unified are they heading into the trial?
Well, I think that's the big question. 4 to look at, and there's more than just 4, but Lisa Murkowski, Cory Gardner, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins. You can make the case for a potential Richard Burr, Lamar Alexander, maybe in Martha McSally as well, as to will they stay on the reservation, that GOP reservation, to make sure that Democrats don't call the witnesses that they want to call. Look, all bets are off. I'm not sure. I know Daniel had said they want to. We're going to see witnesses. I'm not convinced of that. Reciprocity. I hate that word, but that word that you both mentioned earlier. I think that's going to come into play, and I think at some point we may just kind of negate both sides, and it just might be House impeachment managers versus the president's lawyers, and that's that.
We did hear from a lot of witnesses in the House trial, all of those days of hearings, from the ambassador, from Kurt Volker, from another ambassador. So it's not like House Democrats have not had witnesses of their own, and some of them have been Republican suggestions that we've heard from previously.
Daniel, David, hold those thoughts. Stick around. We have much more to talk about later in the show.
Well, to election 2020, the Iowa caucus is now less than 3 weeks away. And last night in Des Moines, the top candidates took the debate stage. Foreign policy dominated the night. But perhaps the most talked about moment came at the very end, with an attempted handshake and seeming snub.
Bernie is my friend, and I am not here to try to fight with Bernie.
But that didn't stop Elizabeth Warren from addressing the elephant in the room. Reports Bernie Sanders told her in 2018 that a woman couldn't win the election.
Well, as a matter of fact, I didn't say it.
And I think the best way to talk about who can win is by looking at people's winning record. So, can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
Amid growing tensions between the U.S. and Iran, foreign policy dominated the evening. Sanders hammering Joe Biden for his Iraq War vote.
I did everything I could to prevent that war. Joe saw it differently.
I said 13 years ago it was a mistake to give the president the authority to go to war.
Others took issue with President Trump's Iran policy.
We have a situation where he got us out of the Iranian nuclear agreement. As president, I will get us back into that agreement.
Obviously, Mr. Trump has no strategy.
On health care, Biden hit Sanders for not being candid with voters about the cost of his plan.
I think we need to be candid with voters. I think we have to tell them what we're going to do and what it's going to cost.
While Pete Buttigieg pushed back on Warren's claim that his plan is too small.
We got to move past a Washington mentality that suggests that the bigness of plans only consists of how many trillions of dollars they put through the Treasury.
And the moment getting perhaps the most attention happened after the debate. Sanders appearing to offer to shake Warren's hand, and she possibly rejects it. The two then getting into what looks to be a serious conversation. The Iowa caucus is now less than 3 weeks away, and the latest Des Moines Register poll shows Sanders at the top, with Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg all close behind. And friend Justin Giboney is a political strategist and founder of the AND campaign, and he joins us now for more. Justin, good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
So who do you think won last night?
It was close. I mean, it was a rather dull debate. I think Buttigieg usually does really good. I think he's probably the best natural debater, but Klobuchar was pretty good as well.
Last night we saw Pete Buttigieg, speaking of which, reiterate a point he's been making on the campaign trail. Donald Trump is trying to use religion, he says, to win voters, but that God doesn't belong to a political party. How is this message resonating with faith voters?
I'm not sure that it is necessarily resonating. I think, you know, people, it's one thing to kind of put that language out there and use religious rhetoric, but I do think that people look to your actual policies. How do you apply your biblical values to what's going on? And I'm not seeing a whole lot of that combination, but I think there's certain voters that say, well, at least we're hearing about it, and that's something. But at the end of the day, I think folks are going to look at the policies, and that's really what's going to stick.
And Justin, what about other candidates? Are they trying to win over people of faith like Buttigieg, who's been very overt in talking about his own faith?
Here and there. I think on the Democratic side of things, that's a lot of people. There aren't as many people who vote just on that basis. And so they appeal to a lot of other things, whether it be immigration, poverty, and so on. But certainly, I think they're trying to show those religious sensibilities. And that does help you connect with people. But I don't think it gets the job done for you. It's a connection, but then you have to grow up with the policies that you have.
Leading up to this election, we do see a lot of political disunity among all voters, but even Christians. How do people of faith approach November?
I think we have to go in there, number one, prayerfully. And we have to say, okay, what actually is our purpose in politics? I don't think it should be all about Christian self-interest, but we should look at each person and the impact that they have on the country and what policies are they bringing to the table. You know, there's a time when we kind of have to break away from the ideology and really focus on the primary things, whether it's human dignity, things of that nature, human flourishing. Where do these candidates stand? And how do they connect with the value, my primary values?
All right, Justin Giboney with the AND campaign. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Our political panel will be back with us after the break to discuss the biggest moments of last night's Democratic debate. Stick around for more Faith Nation.
Sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch the Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Back now with the panel. Let's get straight to last night's Democratic debate. That awkward moment at the very end when Elizabeth Warren, she went up to Bernie Sanders. He reached out his hand to shake her hand, and it seems like she kind of snubbed him. Daniel, what did you make of the exchange?
There's been so much bad blood in the last week with both campaigns going full throttle against each other. They're competing after the same core of voters. These are hard liberals, people who are very leftist and left-leaning, and so obviously they aren't really friends anymore as much as they say they're friends. You know when you see a politician say, "Oh yeah, my friend over here," and then they just stick the knife in. And so I think we're seeing something like that. For Democrats, they just hope that the party comes together, because in 2016, a lot of Bernie's supporters, they stayed home or they voted for Trump, and a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters were very mad that that happened. They don't want a repeat of that this year.
David, a lot of people were expecting a little bit of a showdown between Senator Warren and Senator Sanders. What happened?
Well, once I woke up in the middle of the debate, I realized that, yeah, it really wasn't much of anything. I thought the woman question, we knew that would come up. Look, Warren was very clear. Bernie said it to me. She didn't say those words, but that's what she was implying, saying, I forgot the exact words. She said, I disagreed, is what she said.
And that was the moment. You thought that she missed her moment to call him out, to say, no, that's what you did say. She never actually forcefully said that.
Yeah, because I think she wanted to make the larger point, that not only is a woman electable, but she's electable. And I thought, she was trying to kind of go to the better angels, and I put that in air quotes, big-time air quotes of better angels. So, I don't know. All I know is that it never really became this big knockdown, drag out, except for the end, Jenna, where you talk about that diss for short look. I think it's pretty clear that Bernie said it. I think he wanted to make some amends there, and Elizabeth Warren was having nothing of it.
Yeah, some people are saying that exchange actually is hurting Warren now, despite, she did fairly well in the debate. To both of you, did you think last night's debate moved the needle at all among Iowa's voters?
I don't think it moved it that much. A lot of people are kind of set in who they're going to vote for. They've been campaigning for a year. Some Iowans like to say, it's been 2020 for a year in Iowa because they've just been seeing so many candidates. A lot of people dropped out. But I think it shows no politician wants to look petty in a moment like that. Her campaign was probably cringing because you don't want to look like you're not a team player or you're a fair sport. Everyone should be able to shake hands at the end of a tough debate.
And let's remember, this is a free-for-all for sure in Iowa. And what's interesting is because these delegates are allotted proportionally, you've got to get 15% of the vote. I don't want to get into all the metrics because I'm going to nerd out right here on television.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated. But the bottom line is we could come out of Iowa with everything that's been going on for the last year, and the delegate count is 8, 7, 6. In other words, not much will be decided because everything could be very, very close in Iowa.
Real quickly, about half a minute left. Another unmemorable night for Joe Biden. Is there going to be a breakout moment, or is he going to just skate his way up to the nomination?
No, he's B- Joe Biden. That's who he is. And honestly, that's being kind. He's been about C or C+ possibly. No, this is who he is. So take it. Democrats voters are going to have to take him. It's Joe Biden with an asterisk. It's been like that ever since he got in this race. He's older, and it makes a big difference.
Right. Panel, we have to leave it there. David and Daniel, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, a new trade deal with China, what it could mean for the U.S. economy and your wallet.
Yeah, I got that.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Welcome back. A political shakeup tonight in Russia. President Vladimir Putin is attempting to change the Russian constitution, a move that could help him stay in power past the end of his term in 2024. Putin's proposed constitutional reforms came during his annual national address. The proposed changes led to the abrupt resignation of current Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev.
Meanwhile, today, President Trump signed an interim trade deal with China. The administration says the so-called Phase 1 agreement is a step towards de-escalation of a trade war.
Ben Kennedy is at the White House. Ben, what are some of the big takeaways from the new deal?
Well, John, Jenna, first, farmers and manufacturers have really paid the price for the trade war between the two nations, and they are among the winners in this Phase 1 deal, which aims to end the nearly 2-year-long trade battle. Now, under the agreement, China agrees to purchase billions in U.S. agriculture products and ends its practice of forced technology transfer for foreign companies that do business in their country. Bottom line, it aims to protect U.S. technology and trade secrets, but its success rests on whether China will comply with the deal.
It just doesn't get any bigger than this, not only in terms of a deal, but really in terms of what it represents. Keeping these two giant and powerful nations together in harmony is so important for the world, not only for us, for the whole world, and the world is watching today.
Investors were also watching today. They hope this will be the first step towards ending the costly tariff war over Beijing's technology ambitions and even trade surplus. Earlier today, I got the chance to sit down with President Trump's former economic advisor, Stephen Moore, to get his take on the impact of this deal. Take a listen.
This is good news for the U.S. economy, and it's certainly good news for Donald Trump politically. You know, this was the one big dark cloud on the economic horizon for 2020 was this tariff war between the U.S. and China. And this creates a truce, a détente, and that's very positive. It means a real positive outlook for the U.S. economy in the months ahead. I think the most important thing economically from this deal is that if China abides by it, over the next few years, the United States will almost double our exports to China. Think about that. That's $100 billion of additional manufacturing goods, agriculture goods, technology goods that we'll be selling from American companies abroad. So that's a very positive thing.
Steve, you mentioned if China abides by it, China has promised similar reforms in the past. Do you think they'll hold up their end of the bargain?
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that they will hold up their end of the bargain. You know, this is a rogue regime. This is a regime that has been involved in very abusive trade practices in the United States. And so, you know, we'll have to see. I'm hopeful, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start violating the terms of the agreement. And if that happens, then Trump will come right back at them with tariffs. The president understands that the most important thing is the enforcement of this to make sure that China is living under the terms of the deal. This is very much like negotiating with the old Soviet Union, and so you have to have trust but verify.
Steve, who are some of the big winners of this Phase 1 deal?
I certainly think that when you look at sectors of the economy that will really benefit, clearly our farmers are big winners here because, the Chinese had put very stiff tariff penalties on U.S. farm production, and that hurt the farmers. And so now we'll actually be selling a lot more of our wheat and cotton and corn and soybeans to the Chinese, and so that's a very positive thing. Manufacturing, yeah, that you will see increase in exports of our steel and our autos and things of that nature. And then, of course, the technology industry, Silicon Valley very much benefits from this because that's one of our biggest exports to China.
Let's say best case scenario, China follows through with Phase 1. What does Phase 2 look like?
This is just phase one of a trade deal, and of course there's going to be a phase two that the president and Chinese government are dealing with right now. But look, there's going to be a phase 18, 20, 25. I mean, I've always said that this is the epic battle of our time between China and the United States, the two largest economies in the world. We are locked in a conflict about which nation will be the economic global leader over the next half century. So there are huge issues that need to be resolved by between China and the United States. And so this is a good first step, but people should realize this is really just a first step of a struggle and a battle that's going to last decades.
Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin suggested that the tariffs on Chinese goods will stay in place until completion of a phase 2 agreement. Absent from today's ceremony was President Trump's counterpart in China, President Xi Jinping. John, Jenna?
All right, thank you, Ben. 3 of the biggest Jeopardy winners square off in a battle to become the greatest of all time. Who took home the title after this?
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Superbook fans, here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finally tonight, he is the greatest Jeopardy champion of all time.
And in keeping with Jeopardy's theme, I'll answer by saying, who is Ken Jennings?
There you go.
Jennings took home the title in the game show's greatest of all time tournament. He beat out 2 other legendary Jeopardy champions, James Holzhauer and Brad Rutter. The title also comes as a big payday, a grand prize of $1 million. That means during 15 years of appearances, including his original 70-day force stint on the show, Ken Jennings has won $4,370,700 on Jeopardy. That is an awful lot of money.
Maybe some endorsements out there, too. I don't know.
I would not doubt it.
Yeah, congratulations to him.
Well, thanks for watching tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.